In the beginning, I was kind of scared to go anything but scripted. But then Jacob, he kind of taught me a lot, and he was like, "Oh, look, you can throw around words, see what's funny." And like, because I thought I was going to get in trouble, and I was like, no, man, I can't do that. It's on the script. I got to do what the script says. He's like, it's fine. Every now and then. So then I did it, and some stuff that they did, it was really funny, they said. It's awesome. I love it. Midori's just so outgoing, and she's also from Jersey, so we know what's up. We relate to each other well. Molly, she's from LA, but she's hysterical. She's easy to work off of, especially with alts. I remember this one scenario where we were just going back and forth, like with alts on camera for like 5 minutes. It was crazy. It was so easy to play off her because like the last word that she would leave off would like be the start of where I would start off from. Thor is a young, outgoing kid who has a passion for music and singing. Thor tries to be cool. I feel like he's the kid who like tries to fit in but quite doesn't fit in. But he's just trying his hardest. And he's getting peer pressured by his friends to ditch school and miss the auditions for the Rock of Ages. And he has trouble dealing with that because it's almost like he's letting go of his childhood. Thor is completely different from Brady because Brady isn't allowed to do half of the things Thor's allowed to do, including swearing, go to the mall alone, hang out with his friends alone. At home, I'm not even allowed to say CRAP. So I know if I say it on camera, my mom will be like, no movie. She kind of laid down the ground rules that, like, what happens on the camera, you save it for the camera. What happens on set stays on set. And, like, what's said on set stays on set. I always landed, like, main roles in school plays. And so I kind of had a background on dancing and singing, which was good. And I think everyone was surprised when they heard me sing. No one knew I could sing. On the Skype interview, I didn't want to try and sound cocky. I was like, yeah, I can sing, I can dance.
We talked a lot about what it was like for us at that time and kind of those touch points of the first kissing party and peer pressure and starting to pull away from your friends. And so then as we were starting to think of the characters, it was like, how do you differentiate them so they're not all in the same place? And it was important for us that they're all kind of going through their own different journeys of sixth grade, even though they all have the same kind of ultimate goal of getting to the party.
Lucas is the heart of the movie, the moral backbone of the movie. He's a kid who's going, his parents are going through a divorce, and he feels very unmoored, and he's trying to latch on to his friends, that kind of certainty of friendship, because he doesn't know what's going to happen with his family, what's going to happen at home. So he's trying to really hold on tight to his friendship group.
Jacob just has these really expressive eyes. He looks really innocent. And the idea of putting him into these adult situations, or him trying to navigate situations for sixth graders, that's what we felt like he could do so well. And so when he talks about this might be, that's my wife you're talking about, that's my future wife you're talking about, and you believe that he believes it, that, we felt like that type of earnestness would really kind of carry through a lot of the comedy, juxtaposed with the adult world.
Thor's the mouth, he's a loud mouth. He's got a lot of strong thoughts on things, a lot of, let me tell you the way the world works. He does not know how the world works. He's kind of stayed the same throughout from the first draft of the script to the shooting draft. He's always been, he's a little fundamentalist. He's just like, here's what we got to do. This is wrong. That's right. And he kind of propels a lot of the action in the movie. And he's also probably has the biggest potty mouth of all the kids.
Sixth grade is kind of the beginning of, you start to make choices, and you decide that you want to start doing musical theater, and maybe your friends don't want to do musical theater. And so as you get older, you'll become the musical theater kid, and someone else will become the basketball kid, and someone else will run for class president, and those will become your friends because those are your hobbies and your interests. And where the kids start off in the movie, they're all kind of holding on to each other. I think they're really scared of what would happen if one of them didn't show up for lunch and where would they sit and all those kind of dynamics. Max is invited to a kissing party by the cool kid Soren, and he has a crush on a girl, Brixley, and she's gonna be at the party, and this to him is going to be a real opportunity for him to profess his love. They might kiss, and it starts a chain reaction of the boys realizing that they don't know how to kiss, and you can't go to a kissing party unprepared.
Molly Gordon plays Hannah. That's Max's neighbor. And her best friend is played by Midori Francis, whose name is Lily. And basically, these are two best friends who, we thought it was really funny that in this movie that you could have the villains would be two 16-year-old girls. It just made us laugh. Jacob was very excited about the shootout, the paintball gun scene. He was practicing his moves.
He had watched The Matrix multiple times. It was, he has to get into character. You don't just walk onto a set and start shooting a paintball gun.
Yeah. Anytime there's conflict and stress, it's going to affect the friendship and challenge the friendship. And you add to that puberty and just growing up and getting older.
Hormones and crossing a highway.
Right.
We're throwing some obstacles at them.
Right.
Puberty being number one, crossing a highway number
Right.
two.
Max's character is the mature one out of the group, but he's not very mature. I guess you'd say he's love-struck. He's like the one that is really into girls, while the other two are still, I guess you'd say, maturing, while Max thinks he's already matured and is already looking for a girlfriend, stuff like that. Their friendship is pretty strong, actually. They're called the Beanbag Boys, and they do everything together. They go on adventures together. They fly drones together and do inappropriate stuff together. Well, I've sworn a lot in movies before, but this is a next level for sure. Lots of new words that I had to learn. It all starts when Max gets an invitation from the cool kid of the group, not in the group, the cool kid of school named Soren, and it's to go to a kissing party. And Max does not know how to kiss, so he needs to figure out a way to learn how to kiss, so he uses his dad's drone without permission to spy on some girls, and the girls take the drone, and now the boys need to get a new drone. Will Forte plays Max's dad, and I remember filming the scene where Will Forte screams at Max. It was so hard to keep a straight face. I just could not. I was just like biting the inside of my cheek and my lip. Oh, it was really hard, and he's just hilarious. And we also did another scene where, let's just say he catches Max doing some inappropriate stuff. That was also hilarious. Well, Brady, he's a really cool kid because he's like his character. He's not really afraid to just get on stage and be whoever. And Keith is just like such a loving guy. He's like, I guess you would say he's like, everyone likes him. He's just so friendly. I really enjoy spending time with him.
They're about to go into 6th grade, and that's a big change for them that they're about to see. So we tried to establish their kind of rapport as like best friends who've known each other for a while, but they're all kind of aware that things could be different,
Yeah, they're each also kind of figuring out exactly who they are in the world. Like this is the first point in your life where you start to make choices about who you're gonna be versus choices being made for you. And so they're kind of starting to ask existential questions about their friendship of, are these exactly the people that I'm gonna be with forever?
The writers and the directors, they wrote a spec script based on their own sort of original idea. I think they had some really personal experiences in their childhood that informed this as a important time in growing up. And I think that's, something we're searching for, is those sort of signature moments in a person's life when something new's about to happen. They don't necessarily know how to deal with it.
Being 12 years old is R-rated. Like you cannot separate those two things. I think what we found very quickly was we needed to modulate what the audience's appetite was gonna be for that amount of swearing, because I will say for myself, when I was 12, me and my friends talked at definitely a different level even than these boys are. But what we found for them that was such a great comedy engine was this sense of innocence and curiosity. And I think at that age, you want to know everything about the world. Children in general are incredibly curious, but that's what the point where you're getting to, where you're like, I'm curious and I want to know all the bad things. Like that's what's really interesting. And it tied also into like the theme of the movie of like curious about who you are and figuring yourself out.
He's a really cautious and safe person and nice and sweet, but he has a bad side too. I like his bad side better, but he's a really cautious and nice and sweet person. It's really fun, actually. They're like two different sides. You have Gene is the more you have to focus, and he's the more like strict type of person. And Lee is the super playful one. I've never done anything like this before, like where I had to cuss. I didn't want to do it at all, but I started going over the lines over and over again, and I finally memorized them, so I just did it. It was really fun, actually. Since they're comedians, they keep like improvising and ad-libbing, just saying different lines to go off of what the other person is saying. The most fun thing about coming to set is seeing really nice people. And the most fun thing on set is the alts. The alts are the best.
What I love about comedy is that sometimes it can weirdly land on you in really sort of sentimental and nostalgic ways. And there's something about like the boys, it's this final scene, I don't know if I should give it away, but it's their decision. They're at this age where it's like, do I grow up or do I stay a kid? And there's something about that really hit hard for me. And even though it's like a very jokey movie, it's also about friendship. And I'm just a big sucker for that. So I find it really moving. I do come to set always with my lines ready, but the best thing about this has been like they're so game to mix it up. Even if it doesn't end up in the movie, they like let us play around. So that's what's fun. And what I love about this is that this is their first time directing a feature, and then this is also my first time, I guess, having a lead role in a feature. So it's kind of awesome. You know, I've worked with a lot of directors on the TV and film I've done who've been around the block and have done a million things, and that's great, right? But there's also something so fun about being on a set where everything feels a little new and like everyone's sort of in the same ballpark of trying things. And I do think some of the best work comes from that place of like unknowing. Brady in particular, who plays Thor, I mean, you read the script and you're kind of like, who is this kid? Like how do you even find this kid? Because he's just so outrageous. And then Brady walked in and I heard him say those words and I was like, oh my God, this is just perfect. Like he makes it really real.
The boys get invited to a kissing party and they realize that they've never kissed, but they know that their next door or Jacob knows his next door neighbor is into sex. So they decide to spy on us with their drone. And I see it and I catch it. And I think I'm feeling very hyped up from my bad breakup that I want to teach men that you can't spy on women. So I say I'm not going to give it back. It's been very interesting. I feel it's been cool working with younger people because they're not self-conscious at all and they'll try anything. And I think it's been interesting to see like Lee and Jean throw something to them. They're like, okay, I'll try it. Where sometimes if you're older, you're like, oh, did I not do something right? And that's why they're changing it. But in a movie like this, they just want to try so many different things. So it's been cool to see like, oh, why should I be self-conscious? I should go back to how I was when I was that age where just nothing like really affects me. But then also it's been interesting because it's so inappropriate. So it's at times I'm like, oh no, but they're so sweet. I really liked the scene in the parking lot, the like standoff that we had, because I felt it reminded me of like a kind of like crime drama but it's like little boys and little girls. So I thought that was done well, and that was fun. What's nice about this story is that like both sides are making it hard for the other, and both groups are going through like a big change in their life. Like the girls are becoming older and like the friendship is moving on and they're going to be separated. And then the guys are also kind of moving on because some of them are feeling a little bit more advanced than the others. And they're realizing that like sometimes, you know, it's okay. Even if you're a group, one person can do something. Not everybody has to do it. And it's cool because this movie shows that like people at any age can go through that with friends.
Max, Lucas, and Thor are kids who grew up together. They are still growing up. They are very young in the movie. And they are kind of entering middle school, and they're kind of at that point in their lives where they're kind of maybe thinking or realizing that, like, the only reason they're friends is because they were kind of, like, placed together as friends by their parents, really, you know? And they kind of have never even thought about, like, are these people going to be in my life forever? And Max is kind of having different interests than his other friends are, and Thor and Lucas are kind of a little more, you know, slower to develop than he is in some ways, just emotionally. And I think, like, at least in Max's eyes, they're at a bit of a crossroads as far as, like, will we remain friends throughout middle school?
Lucas is really like finding what he loves, and it seems to be rules.
And he's confronting like very hard, sad, emotional things that the other guys are like not dealing with at all. So he feels like very alone in that.
Thor is kind of having like an identity crisis where he wants to be the type of guy who's going where Max is going, but he just isn't at the core.
And the things that he likes are just like not quite conducive with what like the cool kids in his school like, and he's like kind of grappling with the fact that like maybe he is not destined to be one of the cool kids, which we all deal with at one point or
another. The main character Max, his story really shows that like it's the first time when you're becoming when you enter puberty where like this little voice in your head is just like telling you to do things, and it's making you act like a nutcase, and he portrays that really well, and the character's journey is kind of propelled by that oncoming of puberty.
Yes. In the broadest sense, a comedy about middle schoolers was something that just seemed really interesting.
And I mean, but like the hook is the real thing. Like it's like something you could do an elevator pitch of and anyone would get it. It's three kids who want to go to a kissing party. That sentence alone gets me
their first
interested.
kissing party. To us, it was like a natural extension of the themes and ideas that we knew we were that we liked and that we were drawn to. And it was different enough that it felt incredibly new and fresh. And I think the idea of like just it being about like 12-year-olds was completely just contextualizes everything so differently, and makes the type of humor different and the jokes different and the stakes are different.
And also like in Superbad, the two main characters are very similar and like you can see why they're friends. But in this movie, it's really like they're kids and they're friends because their parents know each other, but they're very, very different and they don't realize it yet.
These ideas are 100% universal and timeless, and everyone, the specifics are different, social media, things like that, but the idea of insecurity and like wanting to be someone you're not and hoping to become someone that you haven't become yet and wondering what your life is going to be like and who you're going to be surrounded by, all that is like 100% universal.
They really understood on this film specifically that like the conceptual element that the kids don't understand things the way an adult would. They really like took that and expanded it and made it the best part of the movie. They understood that like their viewpoint was the funniest part.
He's a little dreamboat. He's so fantastic. Jacob Tremblay, I've gotten a chance to work with one other time on the show The Last Man on Earth. He came and played my character as a younger person. So I got to hang out with him and his family for a day in Los Angeles. And it it is really exciting to get to work with him again because he is such a sweetheart and obviously a fantastic actor. My character's parenting style is trying to be a very good friend. And he's just your classic embarrassing dad. But then he clearly has a line that he draws, and Max, my son, played by Jacob Tremblay, crossed that line at a certain point, and he's going to get reprimanded by my character. Lee and Jean I've known for years. It's really fun to get to work with people that you're so comfortable with, because sometimes it can be kind of nerve-wracking when you're coming to a set and you don't really know the people that are the directors, so you want to make sure you're doing a good job. So it makes me feel a little more comfortable that they would tell me if I was sucking that bad. So it's been a really nice experience. They're doing a great job, and they also wrote the script, and I think the script is so funny. So it's just exciting to be a part of the movie.